Hallelujah. I have had an epiphany. I've had a vision. I've had a eureka moment to do with my show, and I couldn't be happier. But before I dive into that, first, let me introduce myself. Hello, I'm Callum Richards, and I'm the host of the Real Journey podcast. This is the show that shows me growing my online business in real time. You can think of it as a long form podcast for a short form business. I will show you everything from prepping, editing, recording, and posting your short form content, along with some personal and business tips thrown in there as well. On today's episode, we'll be going through the groundwork you need to put in before you start any sort of online business, but especially when it comes to short form video editing, along with your niche or the multiple ways you can say selection, exactly how you can pick that, what your brand is, your brand identity, how you can distinguish yourself between other people within your niche, however it's meant to be said. I'm sure I'll get plenty of people telling me that I've said it wrong. Along with a portfolio. Now, this can be very specific for short form video editing, but of course, you can apply it to any online business because a portfolio is always something good to have. You can even apply it to bricks and mortar businesses, plenty of them have one. And then finally, onto a network strategy. This again will be very specific to myself being a short form video editor, but there are certain aspects you can apply regardless of the business that you are going into. So let's get into it. But first, let me go back to the epiphany moment that I mentioned at the beginning of the show, because I think this is a key insight for you guys to hear about. So I actually have already recorded episode 11, or I thought I did, should I say. Yeah, you guessed it. The file was completely missing from my phone. Couldn't find it anywhere. Couldn't find it on my laptop, my phone. Checked iCloud, checked everywhere within the storage space that I've got within all of my devices, and it just wasn't there. So the only conclusion I've got is I didn't hit record. And of course, like most people, for the first sort of 5, 10 seconds, I was very annoyed at myself. I kept saying it's a very bad rookie mistake. I've read about these mistakes. I used to say to myself, "Oh, I won't make that mistake. I'll always have it recorded. I'll always do this check and that check." And of course, before this recording, I've checked about 12 times now. So this is adding another 10 minutes onto my podcast checks before I start recording. But the point is, I actually know, matter of fact, during that recording that I was not in the podcast episode. I was not with it 100%. I know how many retakes I had to do. I know how many times I kept losing it halfway through each section. I know how much editing I would have had to have done. And I want to point out, whether you believe in this sort of stuff or not, I do. And for me, that happened for a reason, because I feel like I was being so generic with the content that I was making, and I'd have been so generic in that original episode 11 that there was something had to happen for me to wake up and for me to review how my podcasts were going. Because I think if I had got that episode 11 completely fine, I'd have done episode 12 and 13 by now. I'd have recorded them, carrying on with the same structure, the same format, but ultimately achieving the same results, which is none. And what I want to make sure I'm doing with this podcast is I want to make sure I'm testing different things, because ultimately what this is designed to do is this is meant to be a test for me so I can help other clients. And if I'm not testing different formats, different structures, obviously within my niche compared to client niches, if I'm not testing different things, what's the point in doing it? What's the point in just being like a normal generic? You see it all the time. There's thousands of interview podcasts. There's thousands of podcasts talking about motivation and mindset, and I don't want to be that. I want to be very specific in what I'm doing. So there was 100% a reason that that episode didn't get recorded, and you are now seeing the retake, the sort of remastered or reimagined version of the podcast as well. We'll be heading in a bit of a different direction with a few of the same elements kept in there, because that's who I am as a person. But I want to be very much more focused towards the short form editing side of content and the short form editing side of my business, rather than trying to just speak of business as a whole and these mindset tips that nobody cares about, because you can go and look at 20 posts on Instagram and they say the same thing. I want this to be as valuable as possible. I'll say this now, and in 10 episodes, I'll probably switch it up again. But that is the beauty of the beginning phases. That's what we're meant to be doing. So I just wanted to touch on that. No episode, no podcast, nothing starts off perfect. and you should never be afraid to pivot. So now I've touched on that, let's actually dive straight into the episode. And the first section we're talking about is the groundwork. So you can look at the groundwork as the initial sort of activities you need to undertake before you're setting up your online business. So for me, for example, it was learning how to video edit or to short form video edit and how to post, how to use certain little techniques within your clipping, within your editing side, within your fonts, what works best. Ultimately, it's learning it's learning a skill. That's the simplest way to put it. It's very difficult, and I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's very difficult for you to start any online business or any business in general without having something to offer. So you're either going to have a product, which the groundwork would be to go and find certain things to sell. For me, it's skill. For me, I would probably made 100, 200, potentially even 500 videos within the faceless accounts I was running before I started my personal brand. Before I actually sort of signed a client, before I started charging individuals for the videos that I was making. That was all because I had learnt the skill. When it comes to learning your skill, I would always say that it's going to be experience over anything. It does not matter. It doesn't matter about any degrees that you have. I'd even put out there that there's people who went to university, got a degree in video editing, and have either never used it again, or they're being out earned by, well, they're 100% being out earned by the video editors who just went and did video editing and self-taught themselves, or maybe took a couple of classes, done a couple of courses, that sort of thing. There's 100%. I'd guarantee the top video editors are outperforming those who did the best in university. I'm not too sure if you can get a master's or a PhD in video editing. I'd imagine you can. I would bet every bit of money I have that they are being outperformed by the people who just went and did it, who just started to get the experience themselves, started posting on online, started speaking to clients, started signing people. They are one without a shadow of a doubt being out earned. So it is good, dependent on the skill, to spend your time learning, spend your time implementing certain techniques that you might learn, you might take on. But the best thing you can do is just make videos. Like anything, the best thing you can do to get good at football is to just play football. You can you can learn how to kick the ball and you can learn techniques and you can fine tune things, yes. But until you're in that in-game situation, you're never gonna know. You could score penalty kicks are a perfect example of this. You can score 20 out of 20 penalty kicks when you're just taking them you in the training ground. If you're stood in Wembley Stadium with 100,000 people watching you, millions of people watching you on TV, it's a whole different experience. And it genuinely works the same with video editing. If I make a video and I'm posting it for myself and it gets 100 views, which it does, it's not the end of the world because I understand why I'm making more content. I know the results I'm after, and the results I'm after is clients and to seem like an expert in the field that I'm in. Whereas if you're making a video for a certain client and their biggest goal is to get views and then you get 100 views, that's a lot harder for you to negotiate within your own mind because you have not hit the goal that they wanted. If they said to you they wanted 100,000 views, by the way, don't set the view count straight away. If you're gonna sign your first client, don't try and say to them you're just gonna guarantee them 100,000 views. A little story on this. I've been approached to do this for a few pages where they were paying in views, and I think the one that was selling to me was something like 100 for every 100,000 viewed video you get, you'll get $100. And there was a couple of us on the call, and I could hear the two guys like, "Oh yeah, it's 100,000 views for $100. Are you no, don't do pay per view basically. Don't do that under any circumstance because there are certain fundamentals or certain parts of the business that certain parts of the video, sorry, that are going to be out of your control. And if they've sort of bought all of their audience up until the point that you start trying to grow it organically, it's a whole different ball game. So I'd never, under any circumstance, charge for views until you've gotten to a point where you can one guarantee And even then, I still wouldn't. All I do there is if you can guarantee somebody every single video you post, you're going to get 100,000 views from, I charge them $100 per video. I wouldn't say every time it gets to 100K, you pay me. No, the video has been made, your time's been invested, it's your skill is being applied. So yeah, just a little side story. I found it quite funny because I had done those sorts of pages before, and I knew how. I don't want to say how difficult, but it's not the easiest thing. You don't just click your fingers and get 100,000 views. There are certain elements that you can't necessarily control, and yeah, I just found it. As I say, I just found it funny. There was a couple of people within the call that were buzzing for it, and I was just having absolutely none of it at all. Uh, just to finish off on doing the groundwork, a big mindset shift. I know I said I don't want to talk about mindset, but a big thing that I took in when I was growing my personal brand is I just want to be that guy. And if you've not heard this saying before, it's probably the best one when it comes to just earning money online. If somebody approaches you to make a logo, are you the logo guy? No. But can you just be that guy that can get a logo made? Do you know somebody? Can you piece it together? Can you find ways to do it? Are you the copywriting guy? No. But can you be that guy that gets a copywriter on board and working for that client, and you could just be a middleman? Start applying to yourself that you're the guy that can get it done. You're just that person. Guy or girl, obviously, but you're just that guy that can get it done. You'll find a way to do it. There's another famous influencer who spoke about it before, and it was like they'd do anything for money. So it doesn't matter what happens. It doesn't matter you what you need me to do. I will make sure that it gets done. And that's how you want to be applying yourself. Again, regardless of business, but particularly speaking about short form video editing, I've been approached by people and approached for tasks that I don't necessarily do. But I've looked and I've sort of thought, am I going to get them results? Yeah. Will I apply myself to the point where I know I'm going to be able to get them the results they're after, where I know I'm going to be able to deliver? Yeah. Then why am I going to say no? Because I'm going to learn deeper about my skill. I'm going to learn a different aspect of my skill. And if I don't, well, there's no world in my head where I don't get them the results that they're after. I just know I'm that guy that's going to make it happen. And having that faith in yourself, especially over a long period of time, just helps you massively because then, regardless of whatever opportunities come your way, as long as they're suitable for your needs, you'll take them. Because why wouldn't you? So now let's move on to the best way for you to define your niche. I've heard it said in a variety of ways. It's spelled Niche. Do with that what you will. But of course, this is a massive importance because if you don't have a direction of where you're going, you're going to try and hit a massive area, especially as I say with short form video editing. You're going to try and hit a massive area when realistically you want to be pinpointing, you want a target audience to aim for, a target skill you want to be crafting, because then you become that guy. If we refer to the previous segment, you become that guy in that field rather than just that guy who does short form video editing or video editing in general. So when it comes to short form video editing, some of the niches, I'm screwing up how I'm saying it now because I said it so many different ways, but some of the areas that I've tried to hit are obviously podcasting is my main focus right now, and podcasting is my favorite one to do because when it comes to creating shorts, what I find is it's so much better to take a long piece of content and break that down than it is to try and record shorter pieces of content for the exact things, especially if you're not the one who's recording them. So when I very first started doing recording myself and then editing it and then recording myself, then editing it, I noticed that I'd look away from the camera at a certain time. I'd still do this breathing thing halfway through a sentence. There's so many little things that you pick up when you're recording yourself and editing. It makes it a lot easier. When you're doing it for somebody else and they're recording themselves and then you're editing, it gets a lot more difficult because you're not in a position where a few times I'd notice a mistake I made during the recording process as I'm editing, I could then go back and re-record it. If you're getting this from a client, you're not in that same position. So you have to try and speak to the client and say, this, you've recorded this, but at this point you've looked away from the camera, or at this point you've said this word and it's meant to be this word. Can you re-record it? Do you want to re-record it, or do you want me to just send you the video over as it is? Of course, you don't want to do that, because if it's a major mistake, you make the client look a bit stupid then, and that's the last thing you want to do as their editor. So I've found long form content and cutting it down works best for me. When it comes to other niches or niches, again, however you want to say it, things like ecom, I've had a little bit of a dabble in, but it's not something I'm fully accustomed to making short form videos about. Same with sort of sales and promotional videos. They they can work the same. Look, the fundamentals are pretty much the same, regardless of the editing, regardless of what video you're making or what niche you're deciding to go into. But it allows you to pick up certain little, I guess, tips and tricks that you're not going to know. There's, for example, there's promotional video editors out there who solely do promotional videos. And because they're doing that for 40, 50, 60, 70 hours a week, they'll notice certain trends and they'll remember certain trends, and then they can implement certain trends and sort of justify what they're doing. Whereas for myself, if I make a promotional video and then it could be another 4 weeks until I make another promotional video, I'm not picking up on those trends as fast. So niches are a massive area for you to focus on, just so those tips and tricks again that are set within that section of the market, it's going to be so much easier for you to learn them, master them, and then you've got them sort of underneath your tool belt. Then, if I refer back to podcasting again, there's certain things you'll try and use to bring in some more comments, or to get people to rewatch the video pretty much straight after. Obviously, everybody knows about hooks. Those are certain things that you'll just pick up naturally through doing, I'd say, any sort of video editing whatsoever. But there's tips that I've noticed when I'm doing for podcasts that have worked very well. Again, can be music, can be overlays, can be certain text format, things like that. I've picked up that work really well, but they only really work well for the podcast editing side of things. When I've tried them in other areas, it's not worked the best. So that's why picking that's a niche. Really, ultimately, it's just a section of the market. Picking that section of the market is going to help you bring better results for the clients you have within that section of the market. I don't necessarily think you just have one, especially in the beginning, because I think it's good to have one in sense of have one to focus on at first, but I don't think let's take it away from video editing for a second. Say you're a copywriter. The fundamentals of copywriting are going to be the same regardless of where you go. You are ultimately putting words on a page and putting them in a certain pattern or format to either get sales or to get more readers, subscribers, whatever it is. It's not going to be a complete change if you're selling tacos compared to if you're selling footballs. There's not going to be a massive change, but there will be certain patterns within each of those sections of the market that work better. So I wouldn't get too hung up on it, but it is, in the beginning, definitely a good area to focus on. So what I did myself is I just dove into one. I think I dove into about 3 or 4 before I doubled down on podcasting, because it was the one that I enjoyed the most, I had the most success with, and I felt the most comfortable doing, in the sense of that was where I saw the biggest volume of views, biggest volume of results for clients when I did a podcast. And it just ultimately made sense. Look, why would I not? If that's where I've got the say 100k videos, or the most 100k videos, why would I not dive into that massively? Why would I then come away from it and go into other areas? Of course you can, as I say, the fundamentals stay the same, but it does help you. And you've always got to remember, there's no wrong niche or niche. I'm questioning how to say it myself now. I'm gonna have to Google it. I'm gonna have to ask AI. I'll ask AI how to say it, but there isn't. You can't make a wrong choice. It might be a bit more saturated in, say, the fitness niche, than it is in the motor company niche or something like that for video editing. But if you've got your eyes set on being in that market and you'll outwork every other competitor in that market, you can't go wrong. You've just got to remember that you need that direction. You need somewhere to go. So if you want to pick one, I'd literally just Google sub niches within that niche or Google 50 niches, pick three that you like, ask for sub niches. Again, ChatGPT is always going to be the master for things like this. And just stick to it for four weeks. 4 weeks, see if you get any sort of results. I would argue longer than 4 weeks if you want the truth. I'd argue 3 months because then you want to become that guy to everybody else. You want to become that podcasting guy or that e-com guy or that, sales video edit. You want to be that person for that niche, and you don't do that by just swapping and changing them every 4 weeks. But as I say, very, very beginning, testing a couple out isn't going to hurt you because the more of them you test and the more of them you try out, you are going to find out pretty quick which one you like doing. So just dive into one. It's not going to make or break your business if you pick the wrong one. Just don't pick one, invest 100K into it. Just pick one, test it out, see what you feel, see if there's a certain pattern that you're noticing. And then if it doesn't work out, you can go again and go for another one. Let's move on to branding. So, what I would recommend anybody who is starting an online business to do is make yourself the brand. Make it a personal brand. Mainly because of the likes of social media and, of course, AI. It is very difficult to trust anybody who isn't showing the face. And it's even more difficult if they're not showing the face and they're not been around for too long as well. If, of course, you saw a brand like Coca-Cola, you're going to trust them, you know it's a real account, all that sort of stuff. It's easy to do. But when you are starting and you're a faceless account and you've not posted too much content or you've not been out there too much, it is so hard for a new client to have that trust with you because you've got no credibility at the moment. They've not seen anything from you. They've not seen any of your content. They've not seen if you've been doing it for years. They don't know who you are. So when it comes to branding, if you want a bit of a superpower, I would make it you. I would make you the brand of your business because then if you look at somebody like Mr. Beast, for example, you can then switch between what businesses you're going into, but still keep the same credibility because people know you. It's not, say, for example, the CEO of Coca-Cola and then he goes and does a car. Nobody knows. I don't even know who the CEO of Coca-Cola is right now. If somebody said to me he started a car company, I wouldn't know what that is. I wouldn't know whether to trust him. I'd probably be like, oh, well, he only knows Coca-Cola drinks. How is he going to do a car? Whereas, like I say, prime example with someone like Mr. Beast, he's the best in the YouTube and with the content creation side of things. So when he then moves into something like chocolate, you're thinking, oh, okay, that's a bit of a strange. But he still carries that same credibility. He still carries that same professionalism. And especially when you've seen some of his content outside of his own, when you see him on podcasts and things like that, you can see he dedicates himself to whatever he's doing. So he's carrying that sort of prestigious credibility that he's already built up to other platforms because it's his personal brand. It's not Mr. Beast, and we've never seen who the hell Mr. Beast is. We've never seen a face. We just see the logo. So you can see how applicable it is there. When it comes to your colour themes and your font styles and logos and things like that, I'm not saying they're not important. Of course, there should be some time spent on them, and again, you should be testing out different things. But all of that will be deemed will be pushed aside if you can build up that for yourself. If you can build up being that guy, and it's not that guy behind this logo, it's that guy, Callum Richards, who does video editing for podcasts. Anytime podcasting or short form or anything like that is mentioned, his name comes up. That's what you want for yourself. I know what I want for myself, and I don't want it to be hidden behind a logo. So it is of course important. Now, to build up your confidence, if you want a logo, ask AI. Ask AI to build you a logo. Don't spend ages and ages doing it. But again, personal experience, the simpler the better. Because all of these high tech fancy logos, they're just a bit of an eyesore, and they take it away from what your business is actually offering. Try and include something about your business. Try and make it really easy to remember. But ultimately, your branding is going to come from you and the reputation that you hold. That's the most important part of your branding. As I say, of course, there's other things that you can bring into it, but you want the reputation to precede you. You want the reputation to be high quality edits, high quality copy, high quality podcasts. You want that to be who you are. And then all of the other sort of fancy things, I've got blue and yellow and black color theme, and I use this type of font. That's all well and good, but you can have the best visual branding in the world. But if you've got a crap product or a crap service or a crap reputation, it doesn't matter. So focus on you and focus on over delivering and make that your brand. Getting that killer portfolio and showcase for your prospects, for your clients, and ultimately for your business. So, what I've noticed with this, when I did it in the very beginning and I had no clients as such, is you can build up a lot of credibility, but by reviewing other people within your field. So, say for myself, if I'm a short form video editor, what I would look at is people's accounts, the format that they held their videos in, and where they could improve it, and what I would do different that would either make that brand stand out a bit more, or would make the video pop a bit more, or where I'd swap the hooks round and certain things like that. Because you're showing your expertise. You've got the potential of the person you're reviewing to actually reach out to you. It can be positive or negative, I will add, because some people don't like their stuff being reviewed. But it just helps to prove you do actually know what you're talking about. You're not just going on to somebody's video and saying, "Oh yeah, this is crap. Oh, I can do better." You're saying why. You're saying why would you put the hook there? Well, I'd put the hook there because it's more likely to captivate people than the hook that they've actually used. Why would you put the brand in there? It's visual. It's visible throughout the entirety of the video and makes it more likely somebody's going to remember the brand next time they see it. Blah 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 blah. You're including a little bit more value than just saying, "I'm better than these guys, you should hire me," because nobody wants to hear that. And I know if somebody said that about more content, I'd look and be, okay, maybe I don't want to sit there and say more videos are the best videos in the world yet. Maybe you can make better videos than me, but all you've done there is you make yourself look like a fool. If we're being completely honest, if you just come on and insult somebody's content that they put time in there for, just so you've got a hope of maybe snatching their prospect, it's never going to work, or I highly doubt it's going to work. I'd imagine there's of course been some cases out there people have done it with, but you showing why you're that expert, showing why your reasonings behind the improvements you've made to that content are going to be 10 times more valuable than getting that one client because you've slagged off their current video editor. I'm very reluctant to ever slag off video editors when I speak to prospects or clients. It doesn't show well, because if they're quick, remember this as well. If they're quick to slag off their current video editor and sort of throw them under the bus and say they're not happy, that could be you. For all you know, that guy is putting in 16 hours, he's doing X, Y, Z, and the client is making a few issues for the video editor, or he's taking ages getting the video edits over to him, or you don't know the full story. So if you start throwing other video editors under the bus, I am a big believer in karma. I am a big believer in, if you start doing it, you never know if it's going to be done to you. And I'd like to think if I'm treating other editors and just other people in general with respect, it's returned to me in favour, in the sense of if somebody else reaches out to one of my clients and my client's not happy with me at that current point in time, then they wouldn't just sit there slagging you off. I know it's a dog eat dog world sort of thing out there, but it it doesn't bring you any credibility to just be slagging your competition off 24/7. Making improvements, making sort of critiques, fine, understand it. To just outright go and insult them, you're gonna look jealous. You're gonna look lower level, because what's the saying? Hate always comes from below. It never comes from above. So bear that in mind. Again, another way for you to create that killer portfolio and to sort of showcase to potential clients as well is working for free. Take this with a pinch of salt because there are people out there that will have you working for free for months. There are. It happens because, who doesn't love a freebie? Don't fall for it. I worked for the very first client I had for 30 days, and after about 2 weeks, I realised the mistake I'd made. But again, I'm one of those guys that if I say something, I mean it, and I follow through with it. So because I had said 30 days, I carried on for 30 days. Didn't sign them. It was for a testimonial. Didn't sign them as a client, but I thought, well, I'm doing it now anyway, so I may as well do my absolute best, try and over deliver, try and get their views as high as possible, and try and use it as a big showcase of this is what they were getting, this is what they're now getting, this is all thanks to me. And if you've got 30 days to do something compared to having 3 days, you've got a lot more time to get them a lot bigger results. So within, let's say, for example, if you can guarantee 1,000 views per video that you're making for that client or for that potential client, and you've got 3 days to do it. Let's say you're posting 2 times a day, and 6k views you can get anywhere 6k upwards. Obviously, you've got 30 days. You can make it look like you've just got that client 60,000 views. Look, businesses are going to look at that number and be like, "That's a solid number, 60,000 views, regardless of the time frame to a degree." They're not bad numbers to be having. So work for free. Try not to overcommit. And if you are going to work for free, make sure you're delivering those results. Don't treat it as free work. Treat it as if this person's paying you, because ultimately you're doing the free work in the hopes that they will pay you. So that's another one. And then keep it specific. Keeping it specific is massive because, again, if you're looking to become that expert within that field, it doesn't help if you've got short form video edits for car companies, and then you've got short form video edits for sales letters, and then you've got short form video edits for selling some product. Or it's not bad because it does show versatility. It does show that you're able to adapt to any situation, of course, but you're not going to be the expert. You're going to just be the guy that's grabbed work where he can. And you don't want that. You want to be the expert. Experts get paid the most. Experts are the people want to know the experts. They don't want to know the jack of all trades because there's plenty of them. So keep it specific when you're building up that portfolio. It's good to have a bit of diversity in there, of course. I'm not saying just only do steak and egg recipe video edits or whatever. Don't do it that specific. Try and keep it within a relative field. Try and keep it within short form edits or short form edits for XYZ. Try and do it that way because then you're more likely to be seen as the expert, that go-to guy for that thing, and you'll get paid the most. Networking made easy. Now, networking's a scary word to a lot of people because, of course, it means speaking. It means building those relationships with your potential clients, with just people in general. And of course, we all live on screens now, so that can be very challenging, very worrying. Again, online business, there's no reason for you really to meet people in person. I am going to 100% guarantee you now you'll build deeper relationships through meeting people in person. It's just natural that face to face, eye to eye, hand to hand sort of connection cannot be beaten. If you have a chance to meet a client, especially potential clients, in person, if there's an event going on or if they've invited you for a coffee, do not say no. Just don't do it. As scary as it will be, do not say no because, again, I'll go back to the very first client that I had, or the very first free client I was working for. They were overly happy because I was just there every single week. They saw the way I was filming the videos. They saw the way I was sort of adapting it, and it gives you that feedback. People are, when it comes to online, how easy would it be for you right now to write a comment underneath this video, or however you're listening to this podcast? How easy is it for you to say, this is a load of crap and I'm never listening to it again, and you're a silly whatever. Very easy for somebody to write that comment. I'll put a challenge out there now for people to write that comment. But when you're face to face with somebody, I'm not saying people aren't going to say that, of course, but you're going to be a lot more reluctant because it's there's that face-to-face interaction. People don't want to be rude, and people also don't want to risk the consequences when it's face-to-face. So meeting your clients face-to-face, and even people who could potentially help you grow your business, is going to just be a lot better for the feedback as well. They're going to be a lot more caring with the feedback that they give you. If they've got an issue online, they might just ping it straight over as raw as anything and just ultimately call you crap. Whereas if they're face to face with you, they might put it in a bit of a softer way. I could do with this being changed, Cal. Can we add something here? Can we take this away? Can we start putting it onto this? It's a lot nicer. It's a lot more curated. So don't ever pass up the opportunity to meet potential clients or actual clients or just anybody within your field, within your niche, within your business sector. Never pass up the opportunity to meet them in person, because it pays dividends in so many different ways. It will just pay dividends to you as a character. You've got to go up, you've got to shake their hand, you've got to look them in the eye, you've got to speak properly. You can't just put it all on a message and sit typing at your desk. It's brilliant. It's the way business should be. But we're in the online space now, and whilst it's a lot easier, I love that idea of a mover and a shaker, of meeting people here, flying over there, meeting people here. I love it. I love that idea of business, and that's that's what I'm pushing for, if I'll tell the truth. But if you're just looking to network online, it's in the beginning, if it's just online, you can use things like keywords. Just use things like keywords, search them into whatever search engine you're using. You can use Google, but if you're on social media platforms, search them in there and just start up conversations. It's as easy as that. Engage with a bit of their social media, comment underneath a few things, share a couple of things, message them, oh, how did you, if you're speaking to other video editors, message them, oh, how did you get this effect? Or what made you use this hook instead of this hook? That's another way you can actually build that relationship with potential clients as well, is when you're asking them a question that's almost like an improvement, but you're delivering it really well. So rather than saying to them, oh, you used this hook when you should have used what you said in second 13, rather than telling them, ask them as a question. That thought might have not come across their head. Nobody might have mentioned it to them, so that gives you a unique angle as well. And then you're also showcasing a bit of expertise. So it is very easy. You don't always have to be looking for the money. That's the truth. Some people, it's just good to have a relationship with. Some people, it's just genuinely good to build up. I have video editors speak to me all the time, especially on X and Instagram. Of course, I'm not not necessarily going to buy their service straight away, because my content I can create myself and I'm happy managing what I've got at the moment. But they don't know how big my business might grow, or don't know how big their business might grow. They might be able to refer me to people, vice versa. It's just good to speak to people. So, but don't waste your time doing it as well. There's another caveat to this: is don't be spending 3 hours a day and arguing that it's because you're networking. There's, you don't need that. If you're making no money, you don't need to focus on networking. You need to focus on clients. As you get higher up the ladder, then you can start to look at networking. So don't use it as an excuse. As I've not done any work today, but I spent 6 hours networking. No one cares. No one cares. You've networked. No, this doesn't. It doesn't count like that. That's not how it works. So just be careful of carrying it out a bit too much. So I'll take you back to the very beginning, where I highlighted the reason this episode has gone the way that it has is because episode 11 was non-existent. I recorded and it just went, no idea where it's gone. If I record this episode now and I find it, you will never see. I might even hide it somewhere for years down the line and be like, that secret episode 11 is available. I'm not going to do that because I'm never going to find it because it's gone. But I want to use that again. Don't be afraid to pivot. All these decisions that you make, that you think are your final decisions, the logo that you go with, the branding that you go with, the skill that you go with, the way that you're networking, there's so many decisions you're going to be making every single day, and they're going to feel like life or death until they're just not. I was worrying about the way I was doing the podcast and thinking, oh no, but I've started to do this for 10 episodes. That's it now. I've got it. It doesn't matter like that. You can change it. You can change, because that's how you find what works the best. And when you do find something that works the best for you and you started seeing results, do it more, but still have those little testing phases. So rather than, for example, if I put it back to the podcast, if this format works better than my previous one and I start seeing more results than what I did on my previous one, I might stop testing every 10 episodes and start testing one episode in every 20. But there's still going to be testing going on. So don't be afraid to do it. I'm also going to include a quote from one of my mentors here, and somebody you should definitely go and check out is Dylan Madden. And it is, anybody who knows him will have heard this quote a million times and will vouch for it 100%. Confidence. I've screwed it up. Dylan is not going to be happy with me. Experience breeds confidence. The more you test, the more you switch things up, the more you make mistakes. I'm very reluctant now to start editing every single aspect of this podcast and start retaking all this time because, one, it gives me that safety net all the time to fall back on my editing, which I don't want to do. I want to get better at speaking. But two, it doesn't show you the true version of me. It shows you this polished version of me that is trying to be all professional and this. I don't want that. I want it to be as raw as possible. I want this to be a conversation, a value guide to who I am, what I'm doing, and how it can help you, and how it can actually help you, rather than me just saying mindset is everything. Focus on mindset. No one cares. Everybody knows mindset's everything. The people that care about mindset don't need mindset lessons, and the people who do need mindset lessons don't care about mindset. So it's worthless content. But anyway, back to the point, or back to the quote of this: experience breeds confidence. If you have ever kicked a football, or if you've ever lifted a weight, or if you've ever played a video game, perfect example. If you've ever done any of those things, when you first started to do it, you sucked at it. You were terrible at it. I know there's still I don't play them too much now, but lots of FIFA. I know when I very first started playing that, and my mates have been playing it for years, I was terrible. Didn't matter what team I was, didn't matter what players I picked, didn't matter any aspect of it whatsoever, unless I outright cheated, which I did. I've got no regrets about that. Unless I outright cheated, I had no chance of beating them because they had just played it for so long. They had just got so much experience. They knew what to do. They knew how to drag players here and here and here. It's the same in every single aspect of your life. If you've never had a girlfriend before and you first get a girlfriend, you're going to make a lot of mistakes. But then by the time you've had 10, 20, 30 girlfriends, which is up to you, you're going to make less mistakes, or you're going to understand the repercussions that come from certain actions. Same with going to the gym. If you go to the gym and you lift a weight a certain way and it hurts and you're not seeing the same amount of gains as what you did when you lifted it another way, you won't know any of that until you've tested it, made the mistake, and learned from it. And then you're confident in what you're doing. You're confident in, no, I lift the weight this way because I get this amount of results and it's less tension. So I get less, or not less tension, but as you can tell, this is not a fitness podcast. But it's going to have less repercussions on my muscles, blah, 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 blah. You learn more by doing more. So the more you do, the more you'll learn. So it just makes sense to just do as much as possible. Just keep doing, keep putting that action in there, and always approach it in the sense of, if it works, I've learned something. If it doesn't work, I've learned something. So now you can be more confident in the choices that you're making, and it's very easy to start making them. So always keep testing, which you'll see perfectly with how I approach this podcast moving forward. I'm not going to get set in my ways. I'm going to try my absolute very best to not revert back to this generic bullcrap motivational style podcast. I don't want it to be that at all. That's not what I started doing it for. It's a referral point for myself, but it's also to establish myself as an expert and showcase my skills. And I'm going to be re-watching these back every single time to see where I can improve, and of course taking any feedback you guys have on board. So you've seen the new format that I'm going to be approaching these podcasts in. I hope you like it. If you do, of course, any reviews, any feedback that you guys have is more than welcome. Whether you want to whack it on the channel itself or just send it over to me in the DM, I'm happy either way. I just want to make this as value driven as possible and just provide for you guys as best I can. Other than that, I have been your host, Callum Richards. You have been listening to the Real Journey podcast. Go subscribe to the channel, go and follow the podcast, and I will see you in the next episode.